10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Hello and welcome to Knit What You Sew. This week we are joined by the lovely Amy Petler, who will be showing us how to make this beautifully knitted bunny. The project brings together all the skills we have learnt from previous episodes and allows your creativity to flourish. Hello Amy and welcome to the show.
Hi Bria, thank you for having me. Yeah, isn't this bunny the cutest? And it is so simple to make.
And here's what you will need to make it. Okay Amy, so how do we get started?
Well, we get started by casting on 20 stitches like I have done here. We learned how to cast on in the last episode, I believe. And I have already started to knit. What we have to do is just insert the needle and start knitting. We're using a very simple running stitch this time. So it's nothing too stylish and nothing too difficult, so any beginner can do it quite easily, especially considering it's just a square. It's not really requiring that much effort and that much skill, so definitely something I'd ask a beginner to do. It also is very simple to make. I find it a very long process, so I really enjoy watching television or a film or something while I'm doing it because it makes time go a bit quicker, especially if you're wanting to get the project done quite quickly.
So what do you think got you started into knitting?
Yeah. Well, I started because I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to learn a new skill, and I liked the idea of knitting because it was taking something really mundane and simple and then being able to make whatever I wanted. And I thought that was quite cool with knitting, especially considering I can make absolutely anything out of a square. So I don't need to be too fantastic at it.
So what other kinds of stuff have you made?
I think my favourite thing that I've made so far out of a grey square is probably an elephant. By making lots of different size squares and just sewing them all together. See? And then once you'll end up with something that looks a bit like this, and just keep going until it's an exact square. And then you'll have something that looks a bit like this. You can tell it's an exact square by either counting the rows and making sure you've got the same amount of rows and the same amount of stitches, or if not, you can just fold it in half. And if it matches completely, then you've got a square. What you'll need to do to create the head is get your yarn needle with a length of wool, preferably the same wool you've used to make the square, as then you won't be able to see the stitches, and just start by taking it in the middle or a little bit further at the top like this, and so you've got your triangle. It doesn't need to look good, it doesn't need to be even, it doesn't even need to be symmetrical, as long as you've got your basic triangular shape. It is also very important to go in the same direction, so when you finish you end up with both of your strands of wool on that side. It's going to be quite difficult to see what I'm doing because of course the wool's the same colour, but it's quite simple, it's quite easy to get your head around. So just one stitch all the way across. As the triangles will become the ears.
So that is this part, basically this part of the body. And then you have that bit at the end, obviously.
Yeah. And then just keep stitching quite quickly.
So how long do you think this takes you to make on average?
I'd say it only took about 2.5 hours really, which for a knitting project isn't that long at all. And then hopefully when you've done that you'll have your wool, 2 pieces of wool here, and then you just need to pull it a bit like a drawstring bag, if you see. So you end up with this kind of shape. To make the head, you can either use stuffing, or as I like to use, just bits of wrapped up wool. Just push it in, and then hopefully it'll start to give it a bit more shape. You push, push, push. And then see, you've got a rabbit's head. And then you just, to kind of make the head a bit more defined, wrap your wool around. And then there you go. I like to sew these bits, sew through the ears as well, just to kind of define the shape that little bit more.
And to make it a little bit more secure.
Yeah, make sure all the stuffing doesn't fall out. As you see there. See? And then you've got the rabbit's head with ears. Push that back through underneath. So you've got the wool there. So you can use this bit to sew the body on as well. And that means you're not having to take the needle off all of the time. And there you go. To make the body, take a second ball of wool and continue like this. And then run and stitch again, quite simple, just sew this bit up. It's quite fiddly, I will admit. Especially if you've just started knitting, it can be quite fiddly, but it's definitely worth it. I like making stuff like this because it's quite nice to give as a gift, especially with Christmas time coming up.
It's also to do for, you know, kind of an activity to do with parents and children. Just kind of, you know.
It's something nice. If the adult can knit, it's definitely something really nice for a child to learn. I definitely think more people should learn how to knit. And then once you've completed that, you'll end up with something that looks a bit like this. And then to make the tail, what you'll have to do is grab your 2 circles of card and put them together. And much like everybody did at primary school, wrap the wool around. And this again is a very long process, but it's definitely something quite fun to do. Something everybody has already done, possibly.
I've done
primary
this
school.
at primary school,
If not, it's still quite as simple. Just wrapping it around until you can't see the card anymore. Just keep wrapping and keep wrapping. And keep wrapping and keep wrapping until you end up with something that looks like this. You have just once you have wrapped around, just wrap some wool around and then just cut all the bits off so it looks a bit like a pom-pom. And then what you have to do then is just take the back of your rabbit and just sew it on. Much like we did with this bit, and then we can wrap these bits, cut them down and hide them, and then you've got your rabbit.
Well, that's great.
It wasn't very long and it didn't take much time either, and it's very lovely.
Very cute. Well, thank you, Amy, for showing us that. And thank you for watching today's show of Knit What You Sew.
Thank you.